Yo, what is good? Today we're here to talk about Crow Country. The year is 1990. It's been 2 years since the mysterious disappearance of Edward Crow and the abrupt closure of his theme park, Crow Country. But your arrival has broken the silence. If you want answers, you'll have to venture deep into the darkness of Crow Country to find them. Developed and published by SFB Games, Crow Country is both a adventure game or a survival horror game, depending on the mode you decide to select at the beginning of the game, and it's set in an abandoned theme park. Like a lot of survival horror games, it combines elements of puzzle solving and exploration. You'll explore different parts of the theme park. Each area will have its own theme, like a theme park, and you'll just kind of adventure around trying to solve this mystery of the disappearance of Edward Crow. So as I said, it's either an adventure game or a survival horror game. Once you start a game, you can choose from one of two modes, either survival horror or exploration mode. In survival horror mode, it's basically going to play like a survival horror game. Enemies are going to attack you. You're going to have to conserve your resources, and you're just going to play through the game that way. In exploration mode, enemies will not attack you, meaning you don't necessarily have to conserve your resources, and you can just kind of enjoy the story and just experience the game in a much more casual way. So the game has an isometric camera in it, meaning it's kind of like looking down in a 3/4 view, and you can control the camera, so you can pan it left and right, which I think is really awesome, and it helps build that atmosphere, kind of like a retro style survival horror game. The controls in the game aren't necessarily like traditional tank controls. It's kind of like some kind of weird mishmash between like older style tank controls and a modern style. You'll use an analog stick to just kind of freely move around. And then when it comes to aiming, that definitely feels like retro survival horror. But you can also choose between two control schemes. So a classic style is the control style by default. And then there's a modern style. And then I think that just comes down to where you place your hands just to do motions as far as convenience or it being a little bit wonky. I found classic to be okay, and I just used classic for my playthrough of the game. All right, so let's talk about some pros. The first pros that we're going to talk about here are the art style, the music, and the sound effects. I think it nails all three of these things. The art style is like a marriage of Final Fantasy VII with like Resident Evil 1 and 2. The low poly look and kind of like chibi style characters of Final Fantasy VII mixed with the color palette and environments of Resident Evil 1 and 2. I think this game pulls off very impressively well, and like it hits that retro survival horror look just like so beautifully. The music I feel like is also very inspired by Final Fantasy VII. There were a lot of times when I was playing this game where it's kind of like, is this like hints of something from Final Fantasy VII? Like, am I hearing something? I feel like the instrumentals that were used, or maybe like the soundboard with like effects and stuff, is very similar to what was used in Final Fantasy VII, and I love it. When it comes to sound effects, I think they're incredibly immersive. They help build the atmosphere of the game. They help just like get you into the mood while you're playing this game, and like it just all mixes so beautifully well. Right, next pros up, I think the story and the NPCs and the world itself are all very compelling. I feel like the story itself isn't like wildly complicated, it's not crazy, but it does draw you in, and like you just want to know more and more. And the NPCs help sell this story. The NPCs that you come across are all just kind of like wonky. They're kind of like perfectly weird in the same ways that you would run across like kind of weird characters in Final Fantasy VII, 8, and 9, and then like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. They just, God, they nailed like the feel that video games used to have, and I love it. I just absolutely love it. There's also a really cool mechanic in this game where if you are feeling like you're stuck or feeling like you're lost, there are objects that you can go to within the world where you can, there's like, I think there's a counter for 10 times you can use this thing, but it'll tell you the next thing that you need to do. So like if you don't know where to go, it'll tell you where to go and potentially what to do. And then like you can get yourself unstuck, or at least just get yourself in a neighborhood of what you need to do, and then keep trying to progress the story. So as we know, nothing is perfect. So let's talk about some of the flaws or some of the cons that I have for this game. The first one is going to also be something that I really enjoy about this game, but it's going to be the camera. And it's just like a couple of weird things about the camera. So like the first one is when you aim, the camera is just going to immediately swing to be behind your character. And so there's times when I found myself in combat and I'd be trying to aim at something, and then all of a sudden the camera would just move, and then I couldn't see the thing that I was trying to aim at, and then it was making like the situation even like worse to deal with. And I wish the camera would just sort of stay. Like, don't come behind me, make me have to press the second character to reset the camera position. The second thing about the camera that I found kind of annoying is when you move from one room to another room, the camera seemingly just like resets its position, or like puts itself into a different orientation that you maybe aren't expecting. And I wish the camera would just stay in the last position that you, the player, put it. And like when you move from room to room, it just stayed in that position. I found it to be kind of disorienting when you go from one room to another and the camera is like in a completely different position. And that goes into the next con that I had, which is there's nothing in the game that tells you what cardinal direction that you're facing. So if you look at the map, there's nothing on the map that tells you if you're facing like up, down, left, or right. And then the camera, there's nothing really on the camera that's going to help you with that either. So in addition to like when you're moving from one room to another, the camera resetting itself, if you look at the map and then move the camera and stuff, like you just get super disoriented. And I found myself going in the wrong direction more often than I would have liked. Those are the main cons that I have with the game. I have like a slightly smaller con in that if you have full health and you accidentally use a healing resource, you'll use that resource. And I feel like you should be blocked from being able to use the resource if you have full health. Like if you have a full stack of items, you can't pick up extra healing items. So it's like if I have full health, then I shouldn't be able to use a healing item. And I will throw this one up as a mixed. So the price of this game is going to be kind of up there. It's a $20 game that is on sale for like $17 or $18 for the launch of the game. And that's kind of spendy for a single game when like AAA games are going to be like $20. You can get like Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley anywhere from $5 to $15. And you're going to get a lot of hours out of those kinds of games, where this game is relatively short, but this is made by an indie dev as far as I can tell. And it is a good game. Like, I think it's a good game. I do think the price is going to scare people off, especially initially, but with all things, I do see the price coming down in time, and then especially during Steam sales and stuff. This game also, I don't even know if I said it, is on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, PS5, maybe PS4 and Xbox. And so like I would imagine at some point on all of the storefronts, you'd be able to catch it on sale. So we come to that point. The final verdict. Is this game fun? Is it worth playing? I would say a resounding yes. This game is fun and it's definitely worth playing, especially if you're a survival horror fan. Even if you're not a survival horror fan, if you just kind of like tangentially like horror related things or the idea of Resident Evil, but you just can't find yourself playing the game yourself, just play this game in exploration mode. Like I said, the art style, the music, the story, the world, I feel like all of it's kind of worth exploring and experiencing yourself. And they make it so that if you're a fan of survival horror, you can do it, and if you're not, then you can do it without the stress of a survival horror game. Definitely worth wishlisting if you're looking for a game to play this upcoming weekend or at some point in the future. Definitely worth buying. Right, so that brings us to the end of yet another review. I feel like I have been knocking out indie games like crazy, and like there's just been so many good games that have come out recently. And within the next like month or two, my wish list has quite a few further games that I'm waiting for or that I want to try out. So I do have some more reviews in the pipeline that are going to come down the line, and hope somebody out there is looking forward to it. If not, I'm still going to do them because this is what I find joy in doing at the moment. But until the next time, thank you for watching this video. Take it easy out there, and deuces.